Most guys hate finesse fishing. Spinning rods, light line, and slow enough to watch the grass grow. And then tiny fish when they bite. That's why I figured out a soft plastic jerkbait system that lets me power fish and cover water, yet still triggers big stubborn bass to bite. If you want to upsize your bites without downsizing your tackle or slowing down, this one's for you. Alright, this part of my Simple 7 playlist, my basic 7 baits you need that I have confidence in that work in all conditions. And today we're going to talk about soft plastic jerkbaits. I've been fishing for quite a while, but the soft plastic jerkbaits, not part of my Simple 7 for the longest time. The problem is you have to fish them kind of slowly. And you twitch and let them go to the bottom. And when I used to guide, this was the absolute perfect guide customer bait. You'd put one of these on, say throw it out there, let it go to the bottom, twitch it a couple times. The fish will almost hook themselves. So yeah, these things have always been fish catchers, but I've kind of reformulated how I use them. And in the last few years, this is one of my absolute go-tos. And the reason is it's power finesse. I can fish it fast. I can trigger big fish to bite. I'm not getting little dinks like a lot of the finesse stuff. And I can fish it fast through areas, and I can cover a lot of water with it. When most finesse fishing, you have to slow down, fish slowly, fish light line. Let's get into the system and how you can trigger big fish to bite with it. So I'm going to go through here what, why, when, how, all the key things on fishing these, the rigging, and then some common mistakes at the end as well that people make with them. But let's start out with why. That's the first one. Like I said, it's power finesse. Now what I want in my Simple 7, baits that I can use in all situations, and bass, well, they're always eating minnows and shad. They'll never pass up an easy one. Anytime they're fishing it, this thing looks like a shad about as much as anything. It's also weedless. I rig it weightless Texas style. A lot of finesse presentations, you can't throw it up into cover. This one, I can put it right in the heart of cover. Now, another key thing, I can fish it fast or slow, and I can get erratic action out of it, which means all in the same cast, I can vary it up to make that bait go really fast. I can fish it super slow, hang in front of their face, and then I can twitch it and I can make it kick out, be really erratic. So it's the combination of easy to catch, elusive, and great action all in one bait. And the last thing I'll say about this, a lot of times this isn't my primary bait. Sometimes it is, but this thing is my favorite that I can pull it out pretty quickly. And if I've caught fish in an area before, or I think, man, they have to be in here. I threw a bladed jig there, I threw a crankbait, I flipped it, I can't get a bite, and I'm thinking, man, they have to be in here. If I throw this in there and I let this fall right down the way I'm talking about working it, and I put this right in front of them, if I don't get bit, I feel like the fish probably aren't there. I might get a couple dinks or something, or a nibble or a miss, but I feel like I can get, if the fish are inactive, I can tell if they're there. If I try this a few times, I'm not getting bit on this. The fish aren't there, or they're just not going to cooperate. I can leave with a clear conscience knowing I need to go somewhere else. All right, so that's the why. Let's get into the what. Generic category, soft plastic jerkbaits. What I throw, it's the Berkley Jerk Shad. Couple reasons. One, I'm sponsored by them, so I get them for free. That's a big perk. Second one, though, the fact that this has no salt in it. So what I want, I'm not fishing these deep. We're going to get into the how. I'm fishing these up high. So I want a super duper slow fall. I keep it near the top. I fish it fast. I don't want it dropping really fast. I want it to hang in front of them, above them, where they have to eat it, and it's so easy to catch. The other thing I like about the jerk shad, on the very top, the ribs right here. These ribs keep your hook point in there. It's a neat little feature where it tears out really quickly when you set the hook, but it also keeps that hook from coming out. Again, I'm fishing fast. If that hook point's coming out, I'm fishing around cover, laydowns, lily pads, docks, all that stuff. I don't want that hook point coming out and snagging up. So again, and a lot of times I'll get into this, I throw it right up on the bank as well. So that's all part of it. I can keep that hook point so I get a good hookup ratio, but it's buried down just a little bit where that thing's not coming out, because when you Texpose it and you put your hook point in there a little bit, it's tearing out, you're getting snags, drives me crazy. Now rigging it, weedless Texas rig, weightless Texas rig, and I use a 4/0 extra wide gap, the Superline version. It's the Berkley Fusion 19, it's their EWG 4/0, and I'll put a link in the description for all this stuff right here, plus a Simple 7 playlist. But pretty straightforward. All right, so let's move to when. You can probably guess this one. I already said bass are always eating shad or minnows. Anytime they're eating shad and minnows, this is one of my first choices. It replicates that so well. Typically in the moderately warm up to warmer times of the year, I'm not fishing it very much in the winter. I won't say never, but you almost have to weight it and stuff. Then a lot of times I'm fishing this when the water is usually about 55 degrees or warmer, a lot of times 60 or higher, and that's your spring, fall, and summer. I also like it around cover. If there's shallow cover and stuff, I think it has a lot of pulling power. It'll pull those fish that are hiding or inactive in the cover. It'll pull them out. And then, like I said, anytime they're feeding on bait fish or shad, if I see them schooling, chasing, shad flicking around the shallows, the back of my mind goes to, jerk shad might work. Now, the other couple times that I pull it out, unfortunately, it gets tough duty a lot of times when the bite sucks. I can't catch them. Like I said, I've tried everything else, and I want to verify if they're not there. Or I'm just getting a couple nips and short strikes on, say, a bladed jig. Well, I'll pull it out because I know this one will get them to work, this more finesse. And then the other thing around the spawn, if they are spawning, that thing, now I do fish it slower than, but you let it go down to them, and there's something about that slow dying fall. And especially if you get fry garters a little bit after the spawn, the ones that are more protecting up, not on the bottom, but they're protecting the fry. In that situation, these work great as well. Now, in terms of where to fish these, pretty simple in my system. I'm fishing pretty much 5 feet or less. So that means one of two things. Either the area that I'm fishing is 5 feet deep, or the fish are right on top. Say they're schooling or chasing bait, they're within 5 feet of the surface where they're going to come up and get it. But most of the time, that's schooling is kind of a specialty thing. Most of the time, I'm doing shallow water. And the shallower, the better. And this means a lot of times it's the stuff right on the bank where there's the fish and the shad, you're seeing them literally on the bank. It's that much water, like literally. In the fall and stuff, they push way up there, the very backs of creeks, or spots where you're 100 feet off the shore and it's just crazy shallow. You can see fish moving around every once in a while. You'd swear if you threw up there, nothing to be there, and then you cast, and there, lo and behold, there's one. When we're talking really shallow, this excels. So, like if I'm fishing in 8 inches, 10, 12 inches of water up to 2 feet, bladed jigs, crankbaits, all this stuff going to foul up and hard to get through there. Top waters will work, but then that's where the soft plastic jerk comes in so good. And that's one more I forgot to mention, but here's one other thing. When they are coming up for top waters and they aren't quite getting them, they'll nip at them, they'll follow them, they won't quite get it. That's where the jerk shad works as well. But shallow is the name of the game with these. Now, more specifics in those areas, again, bass usually live around cover. If they're chasing minnows and stuff, they'll roam and be out in the middle. That's where I can work this fast and catch them out in the middle of nowhere. But man, bass are always by something, it seems like. If it's a tiny stick in the water, you're talking just a tiny 18-inch limb that's as big around as like your thumb or something like that. Tiny little piece of cover. They're around docks, around a laydown, a single piece of grass, something like that. Always around something. So I'm throwing them by cover a lot. And then these are also great on shallow grass beds. Not the matted up stuff we're talking about where there's big, you pull a frog across it, or real thick lily pads. They will work in that too with the little openings. But that more sparse open grass where it's kind of topped out and then there's open patches in it, or just a little bit random scraggly grass out there where the bass are just around it. Shallow grass, these work really good. You can scurry it across the top, drop it in the holes, coming across the top. They'll hit it the second it hits those holes. So shallow and cover is even better, but it's fine if it's open. All right, now none of that stuff's too revolutionary, but the how I work it, that's where I make a little bit of a difference here, and that's the important part. So let's slow down for this. Soft plastic jerkbaits, 3 basic ways you can fish them. One, you can twitch it like a traditional jerkbait, and it's kind of that more side to side. You twitch it, and the more slack you have, the more it'll kick out side to side. Little ones will be tighter. You can work that fast or slow. You can make it whoop, whoop, kind of walk real wide, or you can do kind of tight where it's quick. And then on the drop, what really has the attraction, so that's the erratic. That's where it kicks out, and it might go all of a sudden a big one, or it might turn on itself. So that's erratic. You never know where it's going to go. And then when it falls, same deal. It falls. This one, remember, no salt. It's so slowly falling there. So it's easy to catch. Like, oh, he was scurrying away, and now it's so easy to catch. And then when it falls, you're going to notice this thing, all of a sudden, it doesn't fall straight down. All of a sudden it's falling, and then it starts to drift to the side, or all of a sudden it starts to turn. So it's so natural. Never doing the same thing twice. Easy to catch, but it looks lifelike. Then the third thing, and this is what I really like to mix in, and I think this is where the fast comes in. Most guys aren't doing this, but you can fish these like a topwater as well. So the action all of a sudden be real minimal, or it can be crazy, depending how you work it. But at this point, the top water retrieve that I'm talking about that you can do is the second it hits the water, you try to stop it, thumb down your spool and stop it before it hits the water and start skating it across the top. Or if it goes to the bottom, you just reel up quickly. But if you throw it out there and get it on the top, you can scurry it across the top like a top water. It's half in the water, half out, kind of leaping in and out, going crazy. And it's scurrying. You can pop your rod tip where the thing's walking a little bit, or you can just reel as fast as you can where it's just skittering across the top. Why does this work? Well, anytime you see fish schooling, you see all of a sudden you see this minnow. What's the first thing you see? You don't see the fish boil first. First, you see like a minnow kind of frantically coming across the top of the water. The hop, hop, hop coming out of the water. Then big swirl, and you're frantically trying to cast over it because, like, dude, he's trying to eat it. Well, with these baits, what I'm trying to replicate is a shad or a minnow, something like that. See, I'm getting excited just talking about it. I'm trying to replicate that bait fish trying to get out of the water. So I'm scurrying this across the top. And we're talking, sometimes I'll do it for a foot or two, sometimes like 6 feet. But I want it scurrying across the top, and then it hits the water, and then I'm going to mix in the other stuff. But that scurry across the top, that brings out that killer instinct of, oh my God, he's trying to get away. Best analogy I ever heard. If you're walking down the street, a police car comes up behind you, you take off running, what's going to happen? He's coming after you, right? All of a sudden, it's like, I don't know what he did. Dude's running away. Must be guilty. Must have done something. Same with bait fish, lures. If this thing runs away from it, sees a bass, runs away from it, it's like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a bluegill. Maybe it's a shad. Maybe it's a herring. I don't care. Goby, whatever it is. It's run away. It's afraid of me. It knows I'm going to eat it. I'm going to go get that thing. It triggers a predatory response. The same thing if you ever go hiking in bear country with the grizzlies. What do they tell you? Don't take off running. It triggers a predatory response. Stand your ground. Yeah, to a 9-foot grizzly. Easier said than done. But anyway, same thing. You take off running, you're going to trigger that thing like, whoa, it's food. He's running from me. I'm going to go get him. That's what I like to do with this. So let's talk about exactly the retrieves. All right, so I can tell you about this, obviously, but I'm going to show you a little bit of footage here. You're going to see it in action. Then we'll come back and break it down. All right, so get these retrieves. The drop, this one's classic, and if you can't even cast that well or anything, and there's fish around cover and you're just convinced they're there and you want to catch them, or in the spawn, this is why I started so many guide customers on it, or my son and his friends. You cast it out, put slack in your line, do nothing with it. Do not keep contact with your line. Just have slack in your line, and this thing is just going to so slowly fall and turn and drift. And this thing with no salt in it, I mean, to get to the bottom in 3-4 feet, it's probably going to take 5-6 seconds. It's so slow. And it gets into bite. And then you can twitch it a couple times or something, let it fall back down. But basically that initial fall, if there's something around it, they'll come and get it. I work it a couple times, twitch, let it fall to the bottom again, twitch, let it fall to the bottom again. That's good in the spawn, or if you're not that good at casting, like I said, or around a lot of targets where it's like, man, every little grass clump or every little stump there's a fish bite. That's a good way to work it. So that's a starter retrieve. A lot of people do that. Super easy. The only trick is keep slack in it and it falls slowly, and don't work it all the way back to the boat. Try that like 3 falls, the initial cast plus twitch, let it fall again, 5-10 more seconds, twitch, let it fall one more time. You're already up to about 20 to 30 seconds. Reel it up. If you're going to trigger them usually on that first fall or second one. If you don't have them by then, reel in, throw it at another target. The key is with that, if there are targets, throw it by the target. Now, the twitching or the kind of jerkbait retrieve, that's where you're getting the tight ones or the wider ones. That's a little bit harder, but not hard. The main thing is you're going to pop your line, and you can do it with your rod tip up or rod tip pointed down at like 8 o'clock or 11 o'clock. But the big thing in that, have a little bit of slack. If you pull on a tight line, every time you pull it, it's going to come forward. So from the side here, it's just going to go pull forward, pull forward, pull forward. It's not going to go much side to side. if you snap it with a little bit of slack in your line, where it's slack at, say, your rod tip's point at 9 o'clock, and by the time it hits 8 or 7, when you come down like that or going up, you start with slack at 10, and by the time you get to 11 or 12, it's starting, it hits it. What's going to happen, that's going to make it snap. And the harder you do it and the more slack you start with, the wider it's going to go, and the quicker you do it with less slack and a shorter burst, it's going to be tighter ones. So you can do right next to the boat, right from the shore, off a dock or something. If you have a swimming pool, you can test it there. You can make it do tight little walks, or you can make it do wide ones. And that one, you can do a steady retrieve with that, just like twitch, twitch, pause, twitch, twitch, pause. You can keep twitching it all the way back. Some people do that. Usually the combination of a couple twitches and then pausing it, 2 or 3 twitches, pause it, then 2, 3, let it fall again, 2, 3 twitches, let it fall again. That's a pretty standard retrieve. That's how most people work it. Now, what I was talking about, that's skittering it across the top. And the best way to do that, you throw it out. The second that it hits the water, I thumb down my spool and start reeling. So if you don't thumb it down, you're going to wear down your gears. So you want to thumb the line to a stop, and then before it hits the water, and I pick up my rod tip at the same time. So I thumb it down and pick up, and that's going to make your bait, instead of splatting into the water, it's going to be hitting, and it's going to start coming towards you. As I start reeling it literally a few inches above the water, and if you start reeling fast enough, you could skate that thing all the way back to the boat without it ever really getting in the water. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to land it gently in the water on the top, and I'm going to start reeling it, skittering across the top. Now, I want to do a couple different things. If it's super duper shallow, I'm sitting in 2 feet of water, there's cover right on the bank. A lot of times in the fall, you'll see like minnows and stuff flicking up in this much water, like literally, and those bass sit there. You'd swear their backs were sitting out of the water. You'd be able to see them, but they're not. They're sitting in like 6, 8 inches of water. And you think a 5-pound bass, I mean, how tall is he? Like 6, 8 inches tall, something like that, maybe 8 at the most. They're not in that deep of water. They can sit there lurking, so they're sitting just past there. And when those minnows come out of that super shallow water, get a little too deep, it's like the bass dart in there and get them. Now, if you cast and splat it down, you're going to spook those fish out. So in that case, when it's ultra shallow, I'll throw it literally all the way in the bank. And I'm not talking into somebody's back porch. I'm talking about just throw it up there like 6 inches. It's weedless. Again, thumb it down and kind of feather it across there. It's not going to snag up. Now, if it's big briars and stuff, obviously bushes, you can't throw it there. But I'm talking just like bank grass, or it's just kind of clay bank or something. I'll try to land it up there on the shore and scurry it into the water. So in that case, I'm going to scurry it about a foot into the water. If there's a little bit of flooded bank grass or something, it's just people's yard grass or pasture or something like that, I'll scurry it through that grass, and the second it clears it and comes into open water, I kill it. So it's scurry, scurry, scurry across the top, let it die. If there's a piece of cover, a lay down or something like that by it, and there, it's a little deeper on the bank, then I'll usually throw it all the way up to the bank, scurry it out up to that lay down or the piece of cover, that clump of grass, and then kill it there. It's the combination of the scurrying and then killing it next to a object, a piece of cover. That's the key. That's the true triggering. That's where you get a lot of big fish, because if you just slowly twitch up to that fish, say in a lay down or something that everybody and their brother cast to, and slowly all of a sudden he sees it coming, and it's like, oh, that looks like a bait fish. Oh, no, it's got a hook and line in it. Nah, I don't want it. But if you scurry that thing, where instead of slowly coming up, that thing's like zoom, just right in his face right there. It's fight or flight. He's either going to eat that thing or spook from it, like instant reaction. All of a sudden it's there. Looks like a bait fish. Boom, pop him. So that's the key. Throw it past the target anytime there's a target, and that's, like I said, docks and clumps of grass, lay down, stumps, whatever. Work it up to it, scurry it up to it, kill it right next to it, force that fish to react to it. It's coming in pretty high. Again, see if this is in 8, 10 feet of water, yeah, when that drifts down, it's going to take forever, and maybe he eats it, but he has more time. When I'm in 1, 2, 3 feet of water, that thing scurries to him, and it's right. He's only a foot down, 2 feet down. It's in his face right away. You can see why shallow water is so key with this. Scurrying it really fast, give him a quick decision. Now, when you scurry it, people are worried about, it's coming across the top, and sometimes it's just like this, and it turns on its side, and it's real stupid looking. Or you can kind of reel it fast and twitch. If you're good, you can kind of make it walk a little bit sporadic too. But the main thing, what's a minnow doing when they're fleeing for their life? They're on the surface. It's not that much of a pattern or something. He's up on the top and trying to stay on the top and just get the heck out of Dodge before he gets eaten. That's the main thing. You want it scurrying and splatting the top kind of irregularly. No matter what you do, it's gonna be kicking and making a natural type move, and it's going so fast when you do it. So you scurry it. You can twitch your rod a little bit. I like to do that with the rod tip up because you're pulling it up, but I'm just kind of twitching it, while I'm doing it, and there's no rhyme or reason. You're just trying to make it be real erratic, scurry across the top, and then boom, you get to the cover, kill it. Now, what happens when there's not cover in the water? And a lot of times, especially like in the fall or some of these barren, more rocky shores and stuff where they'll spawn, there's just not much cover. So in that case, I'm still going to do that same thing. I'm going to scurry it and then drop it. I'm going to kind of just visualize like, well, if there are a bunch of stumps up here, how would I fish it? So I'm going to scurry it out, and especially there, I'm going to try to throw it again as close to the bank as I can, so it's like a minnow all of a sudden coming in the water or coming out a little deeper, scurry it a couple times, and then kill it. I'm still going to do that kill retrieve. Now I may mix in a couple of the twitches where I make it walk a little bit too, so I do a scurry, and then I'll walk it a little bit, and especially as I get a little bit closer to the boat, it gets a little bit deeper, I'm going to kind of vary it up and see if they like that retrieve a little bit too. But I almost always put that scurry in there where it's like going across the top, let it fall just a little bit, maybe twitch, and let it walk a little bit. Then I can mix in, maybe I'll let it fall a few times. I'm going to test to see, well, if I let it fall 2 seconds, is that some of them are following, but they're not quite that aggressive? I may mix in some of that, but most of my retrieve is the scurry and then a couple twitches. And I'll keep repeating that, and then I'll vary up my pause. Now, that killing it right there, that's still, like I said, the deal though. That's usually when they're going to go after it. So whether I scurry it, walk it twice, and then kill it, or just scurry it and kill it, no matter what, I'm always going to put that pause because they typically don't get it when it's on top, when they're jerking like this. Sometimes they will, sometimes when you're snapping it, but usually once it moves, then all of a sudden it stops. And sometimes it's a split second after it stops, sometimes it's 2-3 seconds after it. But so much of the time, it's that little pause, the motion, then all of a sudden it freezes, boom, that's when they get them. Now, if there's a really good piece of cover, something that looks super juicy, something I've caught fish off repeatedly in the past, I just know they're there, looks so good, I know there's got to be a fish. It's a huge laydown, like a 60-foot oak tree or something like that in the water. Now, I'll throw a number of times there, or even if it's a small one, say it's a really good brush pile. It's like, dude, it's the only brush pile in the back of here. Somebody took 5 Christmas trees, stacked them next to their dock right here, and there's no other cover in the rest of the back of the lake. I'm going to throw there multiple times. I'll scurry it up and kill it, and sometimes, it's just got to be from a different angle. A lot of times that first time through, but sometimes it's going to be that the multiple follow-ups. If it's the only game in town, I'm going to try it a few times. But after that, unless it's a 60-foot oak, the key is I'll scurry it around there and kill it a couple times, and instead of having to worm, like a drop shot or say like a shaky head or something, just slow worming it through there and taking a lot of time, I'm getting these fish to react. So I can make 3 casts that scurry and kill it. I can do that in under a minute. That's how long like one cast with like a regular finesse presentation might take. Usually, if they're just really random and there's a fair amount of cover in the area that I'm fishing, I'm going to scurry it up to a spot. That fish either going to eat it or he's not, and I'm off to the next one. My trolling motor's turned up fairly quickly. I'm going down the bank. I'm scurrying it off the shore. I'm going to try to get one to react, and if one doesn't in the first few little twitches and goes, stops and goes, scurries and goes, I'm just going to cast farther up the shore, and I'm just going to keep on doing that and covering water. And what you do is those, like I said, the ones that you have to finesse out, a lot of times it's the fact that you're putting something in there quick and triggering that predatory response. That's going to get them to bite. I don't care how small the bait is and how long you leave it in there. Yeah, drop shot or something, you shake it in front of him for 30 seconds or 3 minutes. Yeah, eventually he may eat it, but you're only going to make a few casts per day doing that. I'm covering enough water that I feel like sooner or later I'm going to put it in front of enough fish. I'm going to scurry it in front of enough that I'm going to trigger enough bites. I'm going to end up catching more doing that way, and I'm going to get more big fish to eat it than if I was slowing down and really picking stuff apart. Now, I'll touch on a few mistakes that people make with it. It's hard to make too many mistakes, but you can make a few. But let's talk quickly. I'm sure you want to know about colors and about setup really quick. So colors, like I said, fish are always, they won't pass up an easy minnow or a shad. So shad type colors, this is albino shad, I believe they call it, that white with the kind of blue-purple back, or black back, any of those shad ones. And then I use, this is like a green pumpkin or a watermelon with a lot of red and purple and green flake and stuff on kind of more sunny days, that bright, that flash. Sometimes that works. In muddy water, I like to dye the tail sometimes chartreuse or orange. Feels like it gives me a little color contrast. But that's what I typically stick to. If it's like really clear water, I want something more natural and the white just seems a little too bright, then I'll sometimes go with the greens. And, if it's muddy water, kind of spike the tail. It's hard to go wrong with just the shad patterns. And my all-around go-to, this is called green albino. So you get some green on the back and you get the white. It's like the best of both worlds. Green works all the time. They always eat bait fish. Looks pretty natural. Unless I've run out of this one or my buddy's whacking them on a different color, this is the one I'm usually throwing. Now, rod and reel setup line, I use 15-pound fluorocarbon all the time. I want something I'm going to be fishing around cover, so I want to be able to get them out of there. 15 small enough still. I can still cast it pretty well, but I have plenty of power to get them out, set the hook on a long cast. In terms of rod, you don't have to be too fussy. I actually have this on a world class, which is overkill. This is a 7'1", medium heavy, extra fast. So the medium heavy, depending on the rod that you throw, this one it's about right. Medium or medium heavy, you don't have to go high end. Like I could easily use the Eagle, which is like their $100 rod, or HMG, any of those, about 150. You don't need a lot of sensitivity. Like you're going to see, or the fish is going to like pretty much swallow this thing. You just need enough power to be able to set the hook, but you want some tip in there. It's pretty light. Just with the bait, these are fairly dense. That power bait's fairly dense, so I can cast it pretty well. But you do want to be able to roll cast it, make accurate cast, and lay it in there, control it. So you don't want like a 7.5 foot rod, and you are going to try to get it out there. So like to me, a 6.5 or something is not great. 7 right around there is a good combo. I go with the 7.1. Where you might want to spend some more money, it is pretty light, and throwing it out there, especially if they're schooling to get it to them, or if it's just really shallow and they're spooking. Long cast definitely help. This is the Abu Garcia, the Xenon X. So this is kind of more of a premium reel. It's one of the smaller ones with the lighter spool on it. The smaller reels with the low inertia spools that throw light stuff better. That's one of the times that I'll splurge on the reels, just because on a light bait like that, it just basically it means you don't need as much force to start it. So real light baits, you can throw it better. And more so than the rod, I think the reel's going to matter there. I go with so if you're going to buy a setup and you're going to say, well, should I buy a high-end rod or a high-end reel? Which one should I spend a little more on? Definitely go with the reel, I think, on this setup. The rod, most any rod will do, but reel is going to help you cast it out a little better. I like higher speed. This an 8-to-1. Main thing, I'm scurrying across the top. Sometimes fish will hit at it, come towards you, so you want to pick up the slack. I don't need winching, grinding power. A lot of times fish are coming up schooling, or I'll see one break. I want to reel up really fast, be able to cast to them. High-speed reel's the way to go. Now, a few common mistakes that I see. With this, it's typically either too fast or too slow. So too fast is around the spring when it's, cold front or something like that. And those fish, you figured out, they will not bite unless you let it drift down to their bed, or it's like super post-frontal, big time cold front in the spring, and they will not bite unless you let it sit there. Hardest thing in the world to do, but these things have such calling power where if you have it figured out that, like, dude, every time I throw it next to a grass clump and I just let it sit there, there's like a bed next to every one, or there's a fish hunkered down in there, that's the hardest thing for me to do. So throw it in there and let it sit. So fishing too fast in that case gets you. But the way I fish it, it's basically people are fishing it too slow. Like I said, every time you slow it down, he gets a good look at it. Not going to work out. So you kind of have, if somebody likes to fish kind of slow, you probably need to speed it up. Burst it across the top. You may think it's goofy at first, but you burst it, make it skitter, and then that quick kill, that's what gets them triggered. So go faster. The jerk shad, it's one of my core simple 7 baits. Check out the rest of the playlist. Other videos here about other core baits that are versatile. Get it done just like the jerk shad.